Hey guys, what's up? My name is Fantanesh and I'm the founder of Sacred Lotus Holistic Wellness. I'm a registered massage therapist, doula, Reiki practitioner, entrepreneur, and a mom of three. But under all these titles, I am a woman who's had to start over and over again. I know what it's like to look like you have everything all together on the outside. You got your degrees, you got your businesses, you got your career, but on the inside, you're falling apart. I've been through so many failed relationships. I've self-sabotaged opportunities. I've pushed away love and everything good that's coming my way because I questioned my worth, I questioned my value, and I just kept replaying the patterns of burnout and self-abandonment over and over again. I built my business, made so much money, lost it all over again, and had to start over from scratch multiple times. Each time I felt the shame and fear come up, like, do I deserve this? Am I ready for this? Am I worthy of this? It wasn't until I stopped and realized how dysregulated my nervous system was and how much trauma I was still holding onto my body that I was really able to start making the change from the inside that was reflecting on the outside. So I'm someone who went through a bunch of trauma, and I just thought that, sweeping it under the rug and not talking about it for decades would just, I'd eventually get over it and move on, but that was not the case. Trigger warning, I was a victim of childhood SA for a few years, and it really dysregulated me. It shaped how I saw myself, my worth, my value, and it shaped my relationships with people around me. I didn't trust a single soul, and I felt like I had to do everything by myself. It made me hyper independent, a high performer, but inside I was literally dying. I couldn't regulate my thoughts. I never felt safe. I was super anxious and I was hyper vigilant. And my thoughts just kept racing over and over. I had no control. I felt completely overwhelmed. And it was showing up in my body too. It showed up as aches and pains. It showed up as inflammation, showed up as, disorders and different, things that were going wrong in my body. I started getting gallstones. I started getting ovarian cysts. I started, getting high blood pressure, inflammation all over the place. My joints were just sore and achy all the time. My hair was falling out. I was under a lot of physical stress, but the doctors couldn't figure out why. And I know exactly why now. It's because I was holding on to trauma and emotions that were stored and stuck and never had an opportunity to release. And so I really had to work on regulating my nervous system. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is daily work. That's something I still have to do because, again, your nervous system is designed to keep you safe, and what's safe is familiar. So if you're used to being anxious, not trusting people, and being hyper vigilant, and you're used to chaos, and you're used to feelings of unworthiness and shame and guilt, that's what you're going to keep repeating, right? And so there is a study that was done, I don't know how many years ago, but it was a really famous study about some dogs who kept re-traumatizing themselves because that's what they were used to. So they put these dogs in a cage, and whenever the dogs tried to escape, they would zap them with like an electric shock until eventually the dogs just stopped coming out. They got really depressed and really really withdrawn. They stopped trying to eventually they stopped trying to come out of the cage. So they brought some new dogs in there, um, and even though they stopped zapping the old dogs, the dogs wouldn't leave. So the new dogs would keep, leaving, and they would go through the gate and keep, getting out of the cage. But the dogs that were traumatized, that kept having that electric shock, even though the shocks were not there anymore, they stopped trying. They stopped trying to get out of the cage. And so eventually, what needed to be done, the dogs that were traumatized, is they kept having to be pulled out of the cage and pulled out over and over and over so that they could understand that there is a new experience out here. The trauma is gone. You don't have to keep reliving that pattern, right? So they kept pulling the dogs out over and over, and it was hard. The dogs kept going back in. They were scared, they were crying, they kept anticipating that shock to be happening. But eventually, after multiple times of being pulled out and pulled out and pulled out and having that new experience, um, they understood. Their nervous system, was regulated enough to understand that danger is no longer there. And so that is the experience that we've had to create in our own lives. What I've had to create in my own life is to start creating experiences where I felt safe, right? The trigger is no longer there. The danger is no longer there. Everything is not a threat. right? I can have peaceful, exciting experiences, right? That's why I love travel. I love to get out. I love to, create novelty in my life, right? Rather than turning to a food or turning to a bottle or turning to a substance. Like, what are some other things that I can create safety for myself with? So this is things like going for a drive or doing some yoga or doing some breath work or doing some somatic healing movements or some dance. There's a whole regulation library that I've developed to help me when I'm getting into these patterns, into these cycles of just self-sabotage and fear, right? Because that's all my nervous system knows. But the more that I pull myself out of that pattern and out of that trap, the more that my nervous system starts to regulate and realize, okay, we're safe. Okay, we can do this. Okay, my body is safe. My mind is safe. I can always come back to myself. I can always create experiences of softness and safety for myself. Now I teach people how to activate their body's natural ability to heal and process trauma through somatic healing and nervous system regulation. So I really didn't realize how dysregulated my nervous system was until I started spending time with myself. And I didn't realize how much my body was still holding until I started actually moving in specific ways that allowed me to process the trauma and release the stuck, stagnant, and stored emotion that had been built up and piling up since childhood. There are three core things that I started to practice that really helped me shift my life and my experiences. And the first thing is to create new experiences for myself. The second thing is to regulate my nervous system through thought restructuring. And the third thing is to move my body so that I could process the trauma and process the emotions and actually finally begin to release and let go and make space for new healing and new opportunities. So I started really living and not just surviving and thriving. And while I'm still on the journey because healing is a lifelong process, I finally feel at home in my body and in my mind. And I know the tools that I need to help me get out of a rut and move forward so I don't just get stuck and keep repeating the same patterns over and over. And I finally created a life that feels like mine, right? I've reclaimed my health, I've reclaimed my life, and now I'm here to help other women do the same. So if you're a woman who feels like you're tired of being the strong one, if you feel burnt out, if you feel like you are so dysregulated in your life, in your relationships, in your emotions, in your business, if you feel like you've had to start over multiple times and you feel like you've actually lost yourself, and if you feel like you're ready to heal, not just in your mind, but in your body, you're in the right place. Okay. This channel, you're going to find nervous system education, so how to actually change your thoughts and pattern interrupt your thought processes, your behaviors, your patterns, your cycles. We're going to really dive deep into how to regulate our nervous system. We're going to create new realities for ourselves and really start to not just know the knowledge in our head, but actually embody it into our lives. You're going to learn tools for somatic healing. So how do you actually process trauma? How do you actually release stagnant emotions from your body? Like, what do I need to do to finally let go of, this dead emotional weight or physical weight or this inflammation? Because all of this is signs of trauma and signs of stagnant emotions still stuck in your body. You're also going to receive honest stories from myself, just real, true reflection. And you're going to receive encouragement to reflect on yourself and share and contribute to this community. You don't have to do this alone. Make sure you subscribe to our channel for weekly videos, our self-care newsletter where you find all kinds of tips to help take care of yourself that are free, and real talk about what it feels like and what it takes to be safe and to feel safe in your mind and your body again, and to actually know what it feels like to be regulated and to have a healthy mind, body, and spirit. I just want you to feel at home in your body and in your mind, wherever you are. You deserve safety and softness and support, and I'm here to give it to you. You are worthy of it all. We look forward to having you join our Sacred Lotus community, and feel free to reach out with any questions. We'll be chatting soon. Bye.